Gambling is risky business, especially if you're doing deals with the devil himself. You probably guessed it, guys, we're going to be drawing Cuphead and Mugman from the game Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil. Let's get started. Let's begin with Cuphead. Start off by making his left shoe, and we'll work our way up to his legs, pants, his body, and of course, his cup head. Now, since this game is based on that classic 1930s animation style, this drawing will consist of very soft edges, and overall will have a very vintage look to it. Once you're done making his shoe, go ahead and make his leg going upwards, slanted at an angle. Make his sleeves of his pants, and make his very simple glove hand. Very classic back in the day with 1930s animation. Make his other leg going downwards. Now, unlike his left shoe, his right shoe is just going to be on the ground, just face down, not doing anything special. I had to adjust his pants here and there because they weren't at the specific angle or position that I wanted to, and you'll make some adjustments here and there because this is overall a rough draft, this is a rough sketch, so neatness is not necessary here. I'm rounding off his pants and then adding the few little details on his glove, those 3 little marks right there. I'm going to make his arm and his pit right there, rounding out his stomach, and as I'm going up, I'm going to go ahead and make Mugman's fingers, because both Cuphead and Mugman have each other's arms around each other. So make 3 very simple ovalish fingers right there, and then I'm going to cut off Cuphead's torso, because now we're getting into his head. Now, I've rough sketched a pretty basic shape for his Cuphead. Of course, you can be as rough as possible. This is, of course, a rough sketch after all. And as I am shaping his cup head, I'm also going to make his arm, and then his little handle right there in the back, and go ahead and make a tongue, and his happy little smile, and make one really big left eye, little nose in the middle, of course, and make the right eye, but very smaller, of course. It'll have to reach the edge of the cup. And, of course, we can't forget those cute little Pac-Man eyes. Sorry, I'm getting used to saying Cuphead in this video. My apologies. And after we're done with that, to top off this rough sketch of Cuphead, see, there I go again, we're going to go make his striped straw, which he has 2 stripes right there. Kind of fine-tune the edges a little bit, because we are getting out of that rough sketch phase, at least for Cuphead, and shade in his cute little eyes. Now, we're going to go ahead and start with Mugman himself. Just like Cuphead, begin with his left shoe, and then make his leg go up, and make sure it's pretty close to Cuphead, and we're going to make his pants pretty much the same exact thing as Cuphead. Make his nice glove hand right there. Make sure that you are using soft edges. The only sharp edges are with his arm right there, with Cuphead's arm. Now, notice that their arms are not really touching each other. It's more of like a stencil style, so make sure they're not connected to each other. Round out some edges, complete his shoes right there, and also his gloves. Now, Mugman's gloves are actually his fingers are more exposed, so make sure you get that detail right there. Make Cuphead's fingers on Mugman's shoulders, and then we're going to go ahead and make Mugman's head, which is, of course, a mug, respectively. Make his very big nose, bigger than Cuphead's. And this his head is going to be a little bit more wider, because it is a mug. Make his smile a little bigger than Cuphead's, but it's the same style, it's the same shape. Make his little tongue right there, and the handle, and of course make his eyes, which are not going to be touching each other, unlike Cuphead's, and again, make those cute little classic Pac-Man eyes and shade them in. Now, to top off the rough sketch of Mugman, go ahead and make a pretty big straw. It's going to be bigger than Cuphead's. I think Mugman is Cuphead's older brother. Correct me if I'm wrong. But of course, you want to also see there's a overlook of the rough draft. Pause if you need to. And he's going to be taller than Cuphead, as you can see, so that's why I think that he's his older brother, but I may be wrong. And what I'm doing here, you don't have to do this, but it does make the drawing neater if you're going to actually color it. You might want to trace it with Sharpie and be really careful. I use a fine point Sharpie to color the basic outline of the body, but when it comes to the eyes and the nose, I use an ultra fine point Sharpie. But if you don't have that, that's fine. You can just color it if you want, or you can also just leave it black and white, color it everything that is instead of red and blue, color it with black. That would be pretty cool. It kind of stay true to that 1930s style. And what I'm doing here is erasing all the pencil lines. Again, if you just want to trace around the drawing but don't want to erase the pencil lines, you can do that, but it will kind of mess up the coloring process a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and get out a black and white, get a red and blue pencil, and get started coloring. Now, shading is not required here. We're just going to be using some bright colors here with no shading required. And for Cuphead, his color scheme, well, not really color scheme, but his colors is red. So I used a red-orange, because a regular red Crayola colored pencil is too dark, and this guy's pretty bright with his colors, so you want to use a red-orange if you have it. And just use a very bright base tone for his pants, his shoes, his tongue, and of course the stripes on the straw, and of course don't forget his nose. And also use that for Mugman. That's the only part of red that's on him. So once you color in the stripes on the straw, your red will no longer be needed. Now with the Sharpie, I colored in the eyes and inside the mouth, but for the body itself, I used a black Crayola colored pencil just to expose those little Sharpie lines there, and just add a variety of color a little bit, because there is a very extreme lack of color and shade in here, but it's really not needed because it's a very simple drawing. And for Mugman, I used a aqua blue, and I just basically gave the same treatment with Cuphead. Used a bright base tone and colored everything that needed to be colored in with light blue, including his shoes, pants, nose, and the one stripe on his straw. Now, one thing I added, of course this is optional, but I went ahead and took a fine point Sharpie, went to the bottom and made a nice casting shadow around both of their feet, and then I just colored it in. So be careful to not mark up your little Cuphead brothers. Make sure you're very careful. And that's to go for the whole entire coloring process. You want to be really careful so you don't mark up anything and make any large mistakes right there. But if you do, don't worry, everyone does. It happens to the best of us. And guys, once you're done with that, you have two 1930s styled video game characters ready to go at it against the devil and his minions. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this drawing tutorial. This is another great addition to the month of Spooktober, so I hope you enjoyed this. Alright guys, well, that's it for me. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you do so, and I'll see you next time.